Hello and welcome. My name's Gabrielle Dowrick and I'm a third year teaching student at Australian Catholic Uni Brisbane. I recently just completed my third practicum experience, which is why I'm here to talk to you today. I have reflected on my own teachings and my own practices and also relied on a few theorists and strategies to help me improve my teaching over the years. Of course, I want to be the most proactive and contemporary teacher that I can be. So that does mean reflection is critical and pivotal to any future success that I want to see. My school was a Brisbane North state school. The state school had been known to have a demographic of low socioeconomic. These students were renowned for some behavioural issues and weren't necessarily high on the academic achievement scale. At first, this did scare me to walk into a classroom where I wasn't sure what I was going to see. But after a while, I did begin to get excited about what I could potentially learn from this school. An experience that I did have, however, was I had a Year 8 English class. This Year 8 English class was completing a novel study, which I got them to do over 3 periods, was a character analysis, a chapter analysis, and a book analysis. At first, I thought this was an easy and simple task, but I was quick to learn and quick to see from my students how difficult this task was for most of them. This task that I had set over the 3 lessons was not differentiated, and unfortunately, overall, it was quite boring, which I admittedly see now. Upon reflection and upon discussing with my supervising teacher, my students were not engaged purely out of the fact that they did not know how to answer what I was asking. My instructions were not clear, and my differentiation was minimal, if any. I had students who were an A range and an E range doing the same task, and to be honest, that just simply is not fair. And upon reflection, I have been able to really see that fluently, and I've been able to see the implications of this. The implications of what I did was my class got out of control, behavioural management was out of the room, I was out of control of my kids, and overall, I lost engagement, which basically meant that my students learnt nothing over those 3 lessons, which was a pretty severe consequence of not having differentiation in the classroom. Which now I know how important differentiation is. I've always loved the idea and I've always loved the theory, but after seeing what happens when you don't have it in your classrooms, I now am so grateful that I've had that experience to now know what to do for my future students. Carol Tomlinson, one of my favorite theorists, describes that differentiation is a priority in every single classroom. She explains that we cannot simply expect our students to have a one-size-fits-all approach. It's just not fair. Australian classrooms are diverse in their nature, so we cannot expect our students to mould how we want them to do. We have to work with them. Basically, student-centered approach, which I love so much. So, what did I do to fix this? Well, after reflection and looking back, what I did do was I implemented the next few lessons. I got the students to decide what activities they wanted to do. I was proactive, I was more prepared, and I did not assume. I started my lessons with a diagnostic assessment. I understood where my students were. I needed to know where I was going to get them, where they were, and how I was going to get them where I wanted to get them. And I could not simply do that by just walking in and getting them to do a task. I then went with a formative assessment. I wanted to see how my students had progressed during that week and what they actually had learnt. To my surprise, it was amazing the difference that I contributed. During those 2 assessments of diagnostic and formative, I did activities such as I do, we do, you do. So the students got to see an example of what to do. They got to do it together and then they got to do it individually, which really helped their learning and their higher order thinking. I also did activities like tic-tac-toe. Students got to choose where they wanted to be in the room, how they wanted to sit, what groups they wanted to work with, and what type of work they wanted to do. And when I made ideas, criterias, success sheets, and scaffolding, my students really thrived off this opportunity. And it really made me see the implications of when differentiation isn't introduced in the classroom and when it is. From my APSTs, theorists, and everything that I've learnt from my experience, I now know how critical differentiation is in our classrooms. And I really do hope that we, as future teachers, can implement this in every single way we can.